Students, readers, writers, hello. My name is Cecily, and we're going to be together for about the next 8 or 9 minutes talking about stories, also known as narratives. What makes a narrative powerful and engaging? What makes Black Panther so good? Why, year after year, do I stay up late rereading Boy of the Painted Cave, even though I have read it so many times before? It is an excellent narrative. Why? So, to help us analyze that, and to help prepare us to look at a rubric that lays out exactly what makes an excellent rubric, which in this case would earn a 4, I wanted to take a moment in this video to introduce you to a tool that has been so helpful to my students and that has been so helpful to me in both reading and writing narratives. You know how sometimes you're brainstorming and you've got ideas about your characters and what the setting looks like, and maybe this could be the problem that they're dealing with, and then you get stuck, right? You can't really figure out how to organize your thoughts and move forward. Guess what we have? Plot diagram. Guys, a plot diagram is one of my favorite writing tools. This is it. You ready? That's it. That is a plot diagram, my friends, and it can help organize your brain so much because it's very simple. Guys, what does a story begin with? The beginning. In the middle, we have the middle. And finally, for the end, we end with the end. Easy peasy, right? Okay. For the purposes of walking through a plot diagram, I thought we could choose the story of Cinderella, a narrative which has been told throughout time and around the world. Fascinating, right? Okay. Plot diagrams in the beginning begin with what we call exposition. An exposition is exposing your reader to the things they need to know, right? You're introducing them to 3 things. What are those things? What does a story start with? Once upon a time, there was a girl, boy, man, human, lady, aardvark, whatever. Once upon a time, there were characters, right? In the exposition, the beginning of your story, you're going to introduce your readers to the characters whom they will hopefully come to care very much about. You know what comes next, right? Once upon a time, there was an aardvark who lived in a setting, right? That's where you describe the setting for your reader with the goal of really helping them visualize and understand where your characters are. And then finally, during your exposition, as your reader is coming to meet your characters in the setting, conflict, problem. What is the main conflict, the main problem that your characters are going to deal with to the end of this story? That's it. Exposition. Cinderella, let's take a look. Who are the characters? Cinderella, she's our protagonist. Who else? The 3 wicked stepsisters, which feels like a lot. It's a lot of wickedness. Her wicked stepmom. Eventually we're going to come to meet this prince. And the fairy godmother. Characters. The setting. I mean, what I love, when you're the writer, you can make that setting anywhere and describe what it looks like, feels like, smells like, right? Maybe it's in ancient Egypt. Maybe it's in China. But you do want to make sure that there are ashes, right? Because that's what Cinderella did. She had to clean all those fireplaces, guys, so that her face and her clothes were covered in cinders, also known as ashes or soot. Cinderella. And this actually leads us to our conflict. What is the main problem in Cinderella? This is what I think the conflict is, guys. She is not treated fairly. She is dehumanized by her stepsisters. That is, she is treated as being less than human. And they exploit her labor. They make her do all of the chores and clean all of their stuff all day, every day. Cinderella must be very tired. And yet, she remains cheerful, as I have learned every time I have read Cinderella and about what she is like as a character. Great. There we go. Exposition. We know everything that we need to know in order to get started on the next part. The next part, rising action. Okay? Rising action describes all the next steps that take place in the story that is going to lead up to the problem coming to a head. Okay? So let's think about the rising action in Cinderella. She's cleaning, stepsisters are nagging her, when all of a sudden there is an invitation to wear a ball. Is Cinderella allowed to go? No. More rising action. Who shows up? Fairy godmother with mice who know how to sew, and a pumpkin that can magically turn into a carriage. And here's an important detail in this rising action. When does this all fall apart, guys? How long does she have before the dress and the carriage and everything disappear? Midnight. Okay. This rising action takes us through the middle of the story to what this point is called, and that is the climax. A lot of people call this the most exciting part of any story. It is when the problem explodes, right? It comes to a head. Everything is focused on this problem and trying to resolve it. For me, the climax of Cinderella is when the clock strikes midnight. Bong, 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 bong. Climax, she has to run. Everything's falling apart. She has just met this prince. And we all know, right? Never depend on someone else in that way for your happiness and freedom. But she has met this prince who there could be a very promising relationship there and a new start for a new life. But, oh no, climax, clock rings, everything's falling apart, she's got to run away. Middle part, check. From there, we call this the falling action, as all of the characters work to resolve the story and bring it to a close at the end. Falling action in Cinderella. Oh, look, next step. He finds a glass slipper on the stair. Oh, apparently Cinderella has distinctly small feet. Falling action. He goes from house to house to house. Are you Cinderella? Are you Cinderella? Are you Cinderella? Put this shoe on. Until finally, we come to what we call the denouement. It is a French word. You can also just say denouement. Until the falling action leads us to the denouement, which is the end, when everything resolves itself, hopefully in a very satisfying way. In this case, in Cinderella, what happens? Knock, knock, knock. He finds Cinderella, puts the slipper on her foot. The missed connection is now resolved, and they can come to get to know one another as human beings and see if their life goals and values are compatible. The end. Plot diagram. And so I leave you on this note. Please have fun with the plot diagram. For the next week, just think about some of your favorite stories and mentally plot them out. Look how easy it is to draw a plot diagram. Write it and then map it out. Because I was shocked when I first learned about plot diagrams, which incidentally, I was like already 20 years old. And I was like, oh my gosh, all stories do have this similar structure. And I have found it a very useful tool ever since.